Alrighty, time to go. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for coming. This is kind of a first. As you know, we try to do a webinar every month or so. It's usually on a product or a product application and what's new, what's a twist. This particular one, we just decided to do something a little different for everybody across the board, maybe just for some information, whether it's a rep, a customer of ours, a consultant, a specifying engineer, an architect. There might be a little something in this for everybody, but we chose the doors because that's one of our most popular product lines. And I was just going to spend a few minutes with you running through kind of what the life cycle is from order to ship, what we deal with and how we process it. And when you call in for questions at some period throughout, you'll kind of have a better idea. When we say it's at a certain stage, you'll know that a little better. So I'm joined here in the background, Becca Barth from our marketing department. If something goes awry, she'll jump in, and then we will be playing a video at the end. The install part is best handled by about a 5-minute video. It's not too long, but it's super informative, and that's how we're going to wrap it up. So with that being said, here we go. This particular presentation is going to be based on our standard QS50 51 door. That's STC 5051, 2.5 inches thick, really our bread and butter door. So it's the obvious choice to kind of do something like this on. We're going to just run through from when an order is agreed upon and we receive a purchase order. At that point, we're going to skip over, you know, the entire specification, bid, RFQs, how we quote. That might be for a whole different subject we're thinking. So this is just from when the PO arrives and how we handle and begin interfacing with our customer and the submittal approvers, things like that. I'm going to give you an order overflow flow chart, overview of the flow chart rather, excuse me. What the submittal phase entails, what a release to production means. So when you hear that we've released it to production or you approve our submittal and release us to production, what that means and what we do. Highlighting on the top, 5, 6, 7 production steps. I jumped the gun there a little bit. Production stages. So again, if you reference and we say it's in frame fabrication or in powder coat, you'll have a better idea where that is along the chain. Then we're going to cover shipment and crating, and then the on-site installation, which again will be handled with a video. And it's about 5 minutes long, but it's super informative. So the very first thing after the part I said we're skipping is we receive a purchase order. In this case, it's one of our representatives, many may know, Keith Peterson, recently ordered a single door, very plain door, didn't have any hardware whatsoever, crated, and we'll ship out to him, and there's his purchase order. It references my or noise barrier's quote number, usually lists what's being purchases, references freight or the quotation number, again, where we reference the freight. Ideally, it would include the tax situation, but it's the beginning of our agreement to supply what we quoted. The key is the quote aspect, because that quote, we do a very detailed, or as detailed as possible, scope proposal when we're bidding something, because doors are fairly complicated. It can be very unique in terms of hardware sets, window options, finishes from veneer to powder coat. So we try to cover all that in great detail. So that's why we want that quote referenced on the purchase order. And then we have a scope history. Here we have a kind of a complicated, but it's the life of a door or any product, but in this case, a door. From RFQ up here, we're skipping through all of this to when we receive the order. So what we'd like to do is immediately acknowledge it within a day or two. We immediately create the folder for the internal team for who's the customer, what's his PO, what's the quote, etc. That gets handed off to our internal engineering, and that includes the project manager. This is where you'd have your project manager assigned. I'm kind of going through this quick so we can get through a lot of things. So anybody has questions on this afterward, you just feel free to contact me. I could even share this chart with you one-on-one. Back to this. So here's the PM who receives the package, understands it, sends a acknowledgement to the customer. At the same time, we begin creating the submittal package. After this, it goes through what's typical is revise, repeat, we'll send a submittal package, which I'll show you. People will change the swings, the window requirements, and we go back and forth on resubmittals. Hopefully only a few, touch on that. And then throughout this process, it becomes approved. Then what a TBR is, we're going to talk all about how we release it to the shop. Then what happens through the shop into a manufacturing release, how it gets built, shipped, and installed. There's a lot on that slide, and I deliberately am not spending a hell of a lot of time on it, or a heck of a lot of time. Sorry. Here is the submittal sheet. This is the core of a door project at Noise Barriers. It's a one-page, deliberately, entire scope for a door, and in this case, it's door 01, labeled up here in the corner, and it says and it contains everything that you're going to want to know about that particular door. The size of the door, what kind of window options there are, the swing of the door, all of the hardware on the door, the thickness of the wall. And if we don't know that, you see this one says TBD. So we're going to expect this to come back marked up. But it's got all the critical components for information exchanging between our customer, ourselves, and whoever the approving agency might be, whether it's the architect or all the way through to the consultant. Everything is on this page. Complete scope depiction. As I mentioned, the door function is on there, the hardware, wall construction. When we're at this stage and you asked, where's the door project? If anybody called in, say it's a consultant who might be on the call and he's concerned about how the project's going and whether the contractor ordered it, etc. Do you guys have an order and where is it? And we would say it's out for approval. This is the stage. We've generated this and now we're in a back and forth getting it finalized. This page covers all of the pertinent information for that door. And then there's a couple other pages. One, to make sure everybody understands the definitions that we're talking about is what do we consider a rough opening? What is a throat dimension? This page goes out with the submittal. And this second page is really a 1A on that first one because it's critical for the rough opening and the rough opening framing. We specify what the rough opening is supposed to be, and at all possible, we're given a partition schedule and we will show how we want that rough opening reinforced. In this case, it shows a nail plate on the jambs with the drywall coming over to cap that nail plate. And it could be a three-sided, a 3 sheetrock one side, 2 the other. It could be a masonry open. It could be an isolated wall. Whatever that is, we take the partition detail from the project and transpose it onto this page so that it's ideally a perfect match to what the real wall is and then how the real wall will be framed out. And that gets addressed again in this installation video at the end. We double check that. So when that comes back approved, we move to what's called release for production. You like our submittal page, we all agree, everything's perfect, scope is good, sign off, we will move to what's releasing for production. And that is when we generate all the bill of materials for the product to be produced, excuse me. And that's all the hardware, all the windows, all the glass, the threshold components, build sheets, installation drawings, everything. And it will take us, on average, we're taking about 8 to 10 days to move a project from OFA to TBR, which means we're working on the release to release it. So it's to be released. So if you call, once again, where's my door? I approved it last week. Yes, it's in TBR. We should be releasing it into production in a few days. So when you hear TBR or to be released, this is the phase we're in now. This is a cover page for how we send a project to the factory to be produced. And at this point, we're handing it off to a group of manufacturing engineers, production planners, schedulers, purchasing department. So we do all this paperwork so each person can have a part in the chain that they're responsible for and build it into their plans for producing the door. At this point, shop engineers review our package and create cut sheets for the shop. The shop itself has daily stand-up, so the day after we release this, they'll acknowledge that they've received this. They've got to start putting it in their schedules and planning for it. We do load our shop first come, first serve, so the faster everybody can coordinate approving, the faster we can release, the faster it can get made because we jump ahead of any other jobs that may have slid in there. So as far as a lead time or an urgency on a job, we are first come, first serve. So at this point, the job would be referred to as released to shop, shop being the fabrication facility. So it's now in the hands 100% of production. So some of these pictures are deliberately vague because we don't want to get into too much detail of how it's fabricated, but it's going to touch on each one of the areas, and you should get a good gist or a better idea if you haven't been to the factory or you're always curious about what they look like during production from start to finish. So at this point, at the very start, we're figuring out and selecting what steel is going to produce this job. It can be various gauges depending on the STCs. Inner skin can be different from outer skin. There can be an internal septum panel. There could be a third sheet in the middle. It could also be stainless or stainless steel. It could be galvanneal galvanized. We stock a wide variety. This is just one sample closest to the door line. There are probably 15 racks like this of steel that we could pull from that have been allocated to the job, get assigned to this job, and begin producing. First thing that happens is all the steel required gets pulled. You see it here in the forefront on the sawhorses or the table. Then they go onto the cutting table where if it had a window, a lock set we know about, any kind of notch required, and the sheet gets cut to size all by laser for the front skin, back skin, door frames, all components. There's more than you think on a door, dozens I'll say, but that's the very first step is preparing all the what's called a blank before it goes to folding. After this, all those parts transfer to folding, and they're formed according to the fabrication drawings for, again, either side of the door pan. Many of you may know our STC 50 door. 51 door is a double magnetic seal. There's various steps in it. There's overlaps. There's hems. So there's a fair amount of initial fabrication to get each one of the pieces into shape to prepare for assembly. This happens to be one of a kind of a unique door skin. It's a 4x4 door, not a regular door. Here is how each job progresses from that phase down to the next phase. They all get placed on a cart. The cart is tagged. Every job, every part required is on that cart, tagged with the job number, and that cart doesn't go forward until all parts are on there. They don't want to start a door and a door frame without all the parts. That just messes up a production line, as you might imagine. But at this point, it's in the queue, it's called, which means it's ready to go into production. From here in the queue, through powder coating to door final is rapid, many a day. So nothing can hold up, or we don't want anything to hold up anything. So we make sure everything is squared away in the queue. You may hear that term. The doors get fabricated on parallel lines. The doors go down one side, the frames go down the other. The frames all fit into a fixturing situation. And then on the left, you see a door blank. That particular one happens to have an EPT, prepped for an EPT. So we run the internal conduit for an electrified lock set. It's kind of convenient that that one's there. But they move in stage gates down through those tables. There's not a lot of detail there. It's about as much as we can show. There's about 4 stages you can see here where it goes from all those rough pieces. This is when the door is in fabrication, full on. It's going to be a full door powder coated within hours through this process. Excuse me. When they're both finished, door and frame, once they start production side by side in those lines, those two components never leave each other. Our doors, as many of you know, are custom made and custom fabricated and then custom fit together at the end in door finish, which we'll get to. These two components never leave each other. So they go from the 2 production lines, they meet up again at the end, they get onto this powder coat line, they get off the powder coat line, they carted together again. Here you can see the door and the frame being prepped for powder coat. You need a very clean surface, and then the materials are hanging on those metal hooks. They get charged. The powder, if you don't know anything about powder coating, the powder then is charged the opposite charge. So the powder adheres in like a glazed, in a powdered donut form, thus powder, onto the steel. It goes through the oven, high temperature, 400 degrees, that emulsifies the powder and then cures it all in one process. We powder prime all of our products as a standard. We certainly do on occasion. Many of you may be familiar with powder coating a particular color, an RAL color. It could be done, and it would be done right here at this stage. When it comes off the powder line, it heads right over to what's called door final. Every noise barriers door is hung in door final. All of the hardware gets applied to the door leaf and the door frame. You can see the upper left-hand corner is a door seal being applied. The hinges will be applied, the bottom boot seal, and then the same thing will happen to the frame. The frame then is mounted in this continuous fixture. There's a lot of, you can see one of these have numbers over them, DF 15, 14. That means door finish position 15, door finish position 3. There are a better part of 30 door finish positions. When we're producing as many doors as we are, we need that many areas. Here you see a window, a full window, very wide door. You see a black colored door, some standard prime colored doors, some beautiful cream colored doors with bronze hardware. No two doors are the same, and it's another reason why we hang them all and test all the hardware and swing test the doors. It all happens in door finish. Nothing leaves door finish till quality signs off on it that it's operating perfectly. Then it comes out of here and heads over to crating. We have a large crating area. All the products go to the same common crating area. Crates are built with a very robust bottom frame. Many of you have received doors on site. They get abused in trucking, lifting on and off at trucking terminals, or whether it's the forklifts, and it protects our doors. So it all starts with, you see a pallet there on the floor, and then they frame up. It's like a full wood shop. We really believe in a robust crate for protection of the product. A non-robust crate has led us to freight damage, and that's just unacceptable. So we definitely go the extra mile on full robust crating. Here's a couple examples of doors with frames. There's 2 doors mounted in their frames ready to ship. Here's a large double leaf. You can see the 2 leaves are in the crate. That's how a large double leaf frame would ship. It protrudes up and out of the top of the frame, but that's the best way we like to do it, as opposed to splitting the frame at the header. Doesn't make for as true and confident as installation. And at that point, we deem the job ready for shipment. So if you recall and say, where's my door? We'd say it's ready to ship. So send your truck or we'll arrange freight. And at that point, off it goes in the truck. We do have what's called a shipping letter. This has really helped. It's our last tie to the customer as far as coordinating what they understand and what we understand as far as getting the product now to the site. We've all agreed on what the doors are, how we're going to build them, what they're going to look like. This is everything that we've developed over the years to avoid issues with delivery. And it's type of truck you'd like, type of end destination. Do you need a forklift, a crane, particular times? We handle all this on what's called our shipping letter. And if you place an order with noise barriers, at some point as it's moving through the production line, you're going to get a freight letter. And we can't do anything without this letter, but it has been a great help for our business. Getting product to a job site in the way everybody wants it to get there. Seems simple, but it took this and a lot of years to get to this point because it's a very cumbersome product. So hopefully now Becca can play again, it's about 5 minutes, but it's super informative video. It does speak, it talks about the importance of that submittal drawing again, and then the install. All right. Thanks everybody for spending a half an hour of your Thursday afternoon with us. Again, we're just kind of trying this out. I think we may do it more things like this to help any of your consultants, designers, our customers, our representatives, um, help us explain certain processes and what we do inside of noise barriers that people may not know, and maybe make some of it fun. And we're all kind of fans of how's it made, so we may kind of keep this going with some of our other products. And feel free to give us feedback if you're interested in this kind of thing and more of it. And then certainly contact me if I went through a certain part too fast or you have comments or questions. That's what we're here for. So thanks everybody. Thanks for that. Thanks for the time today. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.